Welcome to the 19th episode of the Student Recap Podcast, Party Politics 3. Today we'll be talking about Trump's cabinet picks and obviously some of the controversies that come along with them. So to start off, one of the most controversial ones, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for Department of Health and Human Services. And basically, RFK Jr., he was running in the 2024 presidential election, but unfortunately he had to drop out, obviously, as Trump gained more traction, and he wouldn't be able to get any major swings in any states, even as an independent candidate. And then he obviously put in his support for Trump after that. And then RFK, he also has a history of some health denial claims, such as denying that vaccines actually have good effects, and he was talking about how they actually harm people for some reason. I have no idea why he was saying that, but he's partially just not medically accurate or credited for the job. It's a massive position that's in control of Medicare and other government health services that I think somebody with more experience should have, and RFK Jr. clearly doesn't have that. Moving on, Pete Hegseth is the cabinet pick for Secretary of Defense, and Pete Hegseth, he is a former Fox News host on Fox Daily, I believe, and he has a military history. He was actually a private or a lieutenant in the military during the Iraq War, and he has his own small business. But what is so strange about this pick for a Secretary of Defense is that, simply put, he is not a 4-star general or even a 3-star general, because the current Secretary of Defense, Stephen Lloyd Austin, he is a 4-star general. He had an insane amount of military experience, and Pete Hegseth does not have that experience. And two, his opinions are a bit biased. So in 2016, when there was a case against one of his former troop members from his combat unit in Iraq for committing war crimes, it was some form of being indifferent to civilians and shooting in their direction. So Pete Hegseth defended that man even though he was guilty of war crimes. And there has been some backlash on Pete Hegseth for that. And what's important about Pete Hegseth is that he's a very outspoken person in terms of his opinions, right? So with the combat incident and also with being on Fox News, he's definitely a candidate that Trump would like because he's just willing to speak his mind, but he would also be influenced by Trump as, if you're getting chosen by the president-elect to become somebody in government, then you're definitely going to follow their orders, most likely. And I just think Pete Hegseth is a bit too malleable for a Secretary of Defense, since, Stephen Lloyd Austin, he isn't controlled by the Biden administration. He is independent, as the military should be, but is also able to advise the country on courses of action in their own opinion and not simply on whatever their leader believes. Also, the important pick for Attorney General that replaced Matt Gaetz after the allegations of sexual misconduct, Pam Bondi. So she hails from Florida, and Pam Bondi has been an attorney there for quite a while, I think more than a decade. And she has been a big MAGA supporter, obviously, as Florida, the MAGA base there has grown over the past years. And she just checks the boxes, much like Matt Gaetz did. But what Pam Bondi has that Matt Gaetz doesn't have is the, not having accusations of sexual misconduct. One, it would be a little bit harder for her to have accusations of sexual misconduct because it just doesn't happen a lot with women in government. But two, she's just probably a more morally better person than Matt Gaetz, because she wasn't looking for power or money like Matt Gaetz was, and I believe she's at least a little bit more fair, even if she is more MAGA. And more on the Matt Gaetz thing. So Congress just voted to release the articles about Matt Gaetz and his sexual misconduct. So that will be interesting to see once it comes out, and how that will affect his career, because obviously he resigned as a congressman from Florida. So he's basically like George Santos, that he's out of a governmental job for a while. I think that Pam Bondi will be an interesting alternative, but also we should follow Matt Gaetz, because we don't want him to just disappear into the shadows and do some other strange situations with people, and then he gets selected to be the Attorney General in the next administration, which could be a J.D. Vance administration, and then those allegations have to arise again. This is almost a meme. Linda McMahon for Secretary of Education. So she is married to the founder of WWE, which actually has allegations against it from the Department of Education for being bad towards children, because it encourages violence and violent behavior. And I just find it strange, because there's probably a very good educator, a very good professor out there who has clinical studies on students and other experience in that field, but Linda McMahon does not have that experience that others may have, and it's just following the trend of Trump choosing let's say more non-experienced candidates to be in his cabinet. And I believe most of Trump's cabinet picks will be confirmed, just due to the fact that there's nothing against them that would actually be credible for them to use, and would be within the Constitution to have any thought of denying them that position. But as I've said previously, with Matt Gaetz, he had sexual misconduct. That could definitely be investigated, and if you're accused of a federal crime, that'd be really bad to have you as a cabinet pick. But most of these other people don't have any strange accusations against them. For the Secretary of State, Trump has appointed, will appoint Marco Rubio. And Marco Rubio in 2016 in that election, so it was very strange for Marco Rubio, because he was adamantly against Trump, and he did not like the idea that Trump would be as the president. But now he's completely flipped, like many who have been appointed to his cabinet or have joined the MAGA party, you could say. They've completely flipped to do whatever he wants, or at least partially what he wants, because if you do what Trump says, you get support, you get an audience, and these people that are wanting the audience, they're kind of power hungry, in my opinion. It may not be true, but definitely you have to look at their motives, because personally, if I were to be selected for a government position and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna change my political ideology just so I can be chosen, well, that's not morally correct. You shouldn't be doing that, and in fact, that's just not right to do for anybody. Also for a job, you can't change your ideology from somebody who supports fixing climate change to completely going against that and supporting an oil business just so you can get another job. Money and power shouldn't be forces that lead to grievances in your life, and you can also get split off from your friends, because there have been many politicians that have lost friends or family in terms of communication, because they're just so adamantly against what their family members believe. And the pick for Homeland Security is Kristi Noem, the former governor of South Dakota, which also has some repercussions, because Kristi Noem, she was the former governor of South Dakota, and what was so strange about her was that apparently she shot her dog, and there was a massive media coverage of this, which, even though it's not an allegation that can be used against her, is just very quirky that it would occur. Because, you don't just shoot your dog. Well, it happened allegedly, but theoretically, if she did, that would be animal abuse or some form of mistreatment. Now, moving on to a very strange part of government now. So we have DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, which will be headed by Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk. And this is strange. One, because it's not even a government-affiliated organization. It's just going to be an advisor to the government. And two, because it's run by two, pretty much tech gurus, you could say. Well, Vivek Ramaswamy, he ran a biochemistry company before going more into politics, and Elon Musk, he obviously runs Tesla, SpaceX, a variety of other technological companies, and they have both shifted towards the right with the MAGA ideology due to the allure of promise and the power from Trump that they're going to get an elevated status from being part of his MAGA. And MAGA, realistically, there's different factions of it. So you have your rural voters of it that really believe that to make America great again, you need to bring back manufacturing, bring back lower taxes, all that. And then you have the social MAGA people, which are those who started out as normal, but they became MAGA because it brings them influence and power that they wouldn't have otherwise. And it's necessary to see the difference between this, because the people who actually believe in MAGA are the ones who are going to vote for Trump in any election anyways, even before MAGA. But the ones who are voting for Trump now are changed, and they don't truly believe in his idea. They just believe in the idea that they can get power and they can get influence by supporting Trump. And this isn't right, as I said, with the moral convictions earlier. You should only do stuff if it's right. In most cases, I'm not trying to be a total utilitarianist, but you need to do the right thing when it is right and not choose the wrong thing because it is easier. We just have to see that there are a bunch of politicians right now, across the spectrum, even on the Democratic side, like Ilhan Omar. She's supporting some pretty radical ideas, and she just is trying to get power and influence because she's part of the squad, which is a minority within Congress. And even now, as the country is so polarized, I feel like both sides are doing the same thing, that they're having influencers or important people in the world go to their party just because they can gain a platform that is larger than the one that they already have. I think it's strange that they're doing that, and it's not necessary, because if they were truly supposed to get more power and influence, they would already be up there. Okay, back on track. Sorry for getting off track on DOGE. But DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, it is going to be a actually volunteer-run agency that supports finding costs in the government that can be cut, such as if there's a spending surplus in this particular department, or if there's costs that are getting voided that are disappearing and nobody knows where they are. The government can cut the budget for that specific department in order to make sure that less money is taken by corrupt officials who might actually put it in their pockets. And that's actually a big problem in the government right now, because there's a bunch of money, regardless of which department, that is it's not taken track of, and people don't know where it's going. Partially, it could be people taking it for themselves or some other cause, but there definitely needs to be some cut in that. But on the other side, most of the government debt that can be alleviated by cutting costs now is actually a very small percentage of the national debt. So it's something like $7 trillion that's actually able to be cut, because The rest is all either in investors, in the U.S. Public, like the U.S. public owes money just in general, or the government owes money that it has to pay back. But there's certain debts, such as like... So to summarize, the Department of Government Efficiency, even though it would be able to alleviate some of the debt, the cost that it would come to the country in the future for these departments having less funding would be significant, and it could have massive ramifications in the long term, because if these departments don't have enough funding to continue the programs that they have, and programs that support free school lunches within the Department of Education lower, and the correlations between not having steady meals and causing children to not succeed as much, then we could have a situation where the next generations aren't as well prepared for life as previous ones were, since they have less resources available to them that they would be able to use to advance themselves in life. So, in a whole summary, Trump's entire cabinet, or at least most of it, is based on people who he sees as fit, but they're not necessarily fit in the eyes of the majority of the American public or the majority of American politicians. It seems that these picks, they seem good for Trump, but are they really going to be good for government? In the end, I actually think that the cabinet picks could cause government to become more unstable than Trump himself, because in his last administration, he had cabinet picks that were more well suited to the needs of the American people, and not just others who supported him, and they were able to actually make a government that was effective, and it still prevented Trump from having some of his crazy policies. But when these people, such as Elon Musk and Pete Hegseth, come into government, they could really shake it up and cause some change in the country that could be good or could be bad. So, thank you for listening to the 19th episode of the Student Recap Podcast, Cabinet Craziness. Hope you guys had a great winter break, and I will see you guys later.